Captain Eli Mercer adjusted his helmet as the dropship hovered above the alien world of Lyra 9. The sky glowed with streaks of violet and green, and the wind carried the scent of strange minerals and wet flora. He had visited countless planets before, but this one felt different. The assignment he had been given was delicate. Observe the nesting rituals of the Lyrathi, a rare and intelligent species, without interfering. Eli's team had briefed him for weeks. The Lyrathi were large, semi-reptilian creatures with translucent wings and shimmering scales. They were territorial and protective of their young. Any wrong move could trigger aggression. Humans had limited interactions with them before, and no one had stayed near the nest for long. Eli was to be the first human to observe them for an extended period. The dropship touched down on a platform made from natural stone, shaped by the planet itself. Eli stepped out, his boots crunching softly on the rocky ground. The air was thicker than on Earth, filled with a faint hum of energy, an electromagnetic field emitted by the nesting grounds. He carried only the essentials: a compact observation device, recording equipment, and emergency tools. His first priority was to remain unnoticed. As he approached the nesting area, he saw movement in the distance. Several Lyrathi females glided between the nest mounds. Their wings reflected the strange light, creating patterns like living rainbows. Eli's breath caught. They were more beautiful than the holographic data had suggested. One female in particular drew his attention. She was larger, her scales glimmering with a deep sapphire hue. Her wings moved with careful grace, and her eyes, intelligent and sharp, watched everything with precise calculation. Eli crouched behind a rocky outcrop and activated his long-range cameras. He watched as she moved closer to another nest mound. Unlike the other Lyrathi, she seemed alert, aware of everything around her. Her gaze occasionally flicked toward Eli's hiding spot, though he made no sound and remained still. Something about her felt different. Hours passed as he recorded data. He noted the intricate ways the Lyrathi tended to their eggs, feeding the hatchlings with specialized nutrients and protecting them from minor predators. Yet the sapphire female never seemed to leave the vicinity. She circled slowly, always returning to observe the same area, Eli's area. By nightfall, the alien sky erupted with bioluminescent clouds. Eli set up a temporary shelter near the edge of the nesting grounds, careful not to intrude. As he adjusted the sensors, a sudden movement caught his eye. The sapphire female had approached closer than usual, hovering above a small ledge just 10 meters from him. Her wings were folded slightly, an unusual posture that the field guide described as neither aggression nor submission, but curiosity. Eli's heart pounded. He had been trained for encounters like this, but he had never studied a creature so aware of him. He slowly activated his observation drone, sending it up quietly. The Lyrathi watched the small machine, tilting her head as if assessing its purpose. She made a low melodic sound, soft and almost musical. Eli recorded it, noting that it was distinct from the typical calls the Lyrathi made to one another. He realized then that she was reacting to him specifically, not just his equipment. It was unusual for Lyrathi to focus on one human in such a way. Eli remained calm, remembering the protocols. Observe without interfering, do not make eye contact, and avoid sudden movements. The night passed without incident, but sleep eluded him. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined the sapphire female hovering near his shelter, watching him, studying him. It was unnerving yet fascinating. He had expected distance, not this direct awareness. The next morning, Eli continued his observations. He moved slowly between nests, documenting feeding patterns, egg incubation behavior, and social interactions. The sapphire female followed at a distance, her curiosity persistent. At one point, she landed on a nearby mound and watched him as he recorded data. She tilted her head, then spread her wings in a display that the field guide suggested was a form of courtship, though Eli dismissed it at first. Surely she couldn't be interpreting a human this way. Yet her behavior was consistent. She brought small, glowing objects from the surrounding area and placed them near his observation equipment. Eli noted them carefully. The objects had no use for him, but their placement seemed intentional. He recorded each instance, realizing that the Lyrathi female might be testing his responses. By the second day, Eli began to feel the strain of maintaining professional distance. She was clever, curious, and increasingly bold. Other Lyrathi kept their distance, glancing occasionally at her, as if warning her to retreat. But she ignored them. Her attention remained fixed on Eli. He wondered what she saw in him. He was just a human, not part of her species' complex social hierarchy. Yet somehow his presence had disrupted the normal order. Eli made sure to avoid touching any of her offerings, fearing that a misstep could provoke aggression. Instead, he documented everything, his mind racing with questions. Late in the afternoon, a sudden movement caught his attention. A young hatchling had strayed from its nest and wandered close to him. The sapphire female reacted instantly, swooping between him and the hatchling with a low warning hum. She did not attack him, but her protective stance was clear. Eli froze, understanding that her instincts were overriding any hesitation. He spoke softly, careful not to frighten her. "I mean no harm," he said, though he doubted she understood words. Still, he hoped his tone conveyed safety. Slowly, she relaxed, circling above him before returning to the hatchling. Eli realized that she had accepted his presence as non-threatening, at least temporarily. As the sun began to set, Eli set up his evening recording. The sky was ablaze with violet clouds reflecting on the nests like liquid light. The sapphire female hovered nearby, watching his every movement. Eli's curiosity was matched by hers, forming an unspoken connection. He understood one thing clearly: this observation mission would not be simple. By the time he retired to his shelter for the night, Eli had already begun reviewing his notes. The sapphire female was unlike any Lirathi he had studied. Her intelligence, her curiosity, and her protective nature suggested a depth of emotion humans rarely encountered in alien species. He knew the coming days would test his ability to remain objective, yet he could not help feeling a strange respect and a cautious fascination for the creature who had claimed him as her focus. Outside, the alien wind hummed softly. The nests glowed faintly in the bioluminescent light. And somewhere above the ledge, the sapphire female watched, waiting, learning, and perhaps hoping. Eli lay awake, contemplating what the next day might bring. One thing was certain: his presence had changed the nesting grounds forever. And somehow the Lirathi female had made it clear that she was aware of him, not as a human observer, but as a participant in a ritual she alone understood. The line between observation and interaction had already begun to blur, and Eli knew that the days ahead would challenge everything he thought he knew about alien behavior, instincts, and connection. The morning sun cast long, purple shadows across the nesting grounds. Captain Eli Mercer stepped carefully between the stone mounds, recording data on his tablet. He had grown used to the alien sounds, the hum of energy in the air, the calls of the Lirathi, and the soft rustle of their wings. But one presence dominated every thought: the sapphire female. Shira, as Eli had started to call her in his notes, had been watching him since dawn. Her movements were deliberate. She glided from mound to mound, keeping a careful distance but always returning to observe him. Today, her attention seemed sharper, her gaze almost analytical. Eli set up a perimeter of sensors to track interactions between the Lirathi and their hatchlings. He noticed something strange. When he moved, Shira moved too, adjusting her position as if mirroring him. He paused, realizing this was unusual behavior. Lirathi typically avoided humans entirely, but Shira seemed intrigued. He activated a small drone to hover quietly above the nests. The other females ignored it, focused on their hatchlings. Shira, however, tilted her head and followed its movements with intense focus. She emitted a soft melodic hum, distinct from her usual calls. Eli recorded it, replaying the sound in his earpiece. The tones were intricate, almost musical, but clearly meant as a message. Eli frowned. Could she be trying to communicate? He had read reports of alien species responding to human signals, but this felt different. It was as if Shira was testing him, measuring his reactions. By midday, Eli noticed another unusual behavior. Shira had brought small objects from the surrounding area, glowing stones, tiny plants with luminescent leaves, and placed them near his observation equipment. He crouched and examined them carefully, making sure not to disturb her. The placement was intentional. The objects formed a subtle pattern around the devices. He jotted notes rapidly. Possible ritualistic behavior. Could be social or mating signal? His hand paused. Could a human presence really be interpreted as part of a mating ritual? That seemed impossible. Humans were not part of Lirathi biology or culture, and yet the evidence was clear. Shira's attention, her offerings, her protective behavior, all pointed toward something more than curiosity. Eli tried to maintain professional detachment. He reminded himself, observe, record, do not interfere. But it was getting harder. Shira's presence was constant. Ever. The sun had barely risen over the jagged cliffs of Lyra 9 when Eli Mercer noticed the first signs of trouble. The usually calm nesting grounds were tense. The hum in the air, the electromagnetic field that had always been a gentle presence, had grown sharp and jittery. Eli scanned the horizon and saw a shadow moving faster than any Lirathi should. A predator had entered the area. It was large, insect-like, with armored legs and a spiny tail. Its eyes glowed red, and it moved with a speed and precision that made Eli's heart race. This predator had never been recorded near the nesting grounds. The Lirathi females hissed warnings, their wings raised in alarm, and the nestlings scurried into protective alcoves. Shira, the sapphire female, reacted instantly. She leapt from her perch, wings spread wide, positioning herself directly between Eli and the predator. Her eyes glowed faintly as she let out a low, vibrating hum. Eli froze, realizing that she had fully accepted him as part of her space, as someone under her protection. Eli knew he had to act carefully. Any sudden movement could provoke the predator or cause Shira to attack. He quickly retrieved his compact deterrent device from his pack. The device could emit a pulse to slow down the creature without harming it, giving the Lirathi a chance to defend their nestlings. He activated it, sending a soft hum into the air. The predator paused for a split second, its multiple limbs twitching. Shira hissed in frustration but did not retreat. She lowered her body, wings vibrating, ready to strike if necessary. Eli adjusted the pulse, careful to stay in sync with her movements. It was a delicate dance. Human and alien instincts had to work together. Eli's understanding of technology and Shira's natural speed and strength complemented each other. With a combination of strategic pulses and careful positioning, they managed to push the predator back slowly. The other Lirathi joined in, creating a defensive circle around the nestlings. Eli's heart pounded. He had never fought alongside an alien in such a coordinated way. Every time he signaled a pulse, Shira reacted instantly, her body moving in perfect harmony with the rhythm. The predator lunged, but Shira intercepted it, snapping her wings in a powerful motion that sent the creature stumbling backward. Eli adjusted his device, slowing it further until the predator finally retreated into the cliffs, leaving the nests unharmed. When the danger passed, the nesting grounds were quiet again, save for the soft rustle of wings and the hum of the electromagnetic field. Shira hovered close to Eli, wings folded slightly, letting out a soft, melodic tone. It was almost a sigh of relief, but Eli knew it was more than that. She was acknowledging him, not just as a presence, but as a partner in protecting the nest. Eli knelt beside one of the nestlings, making sure it was unharmed. Shira circled above him, watching every movement. The other Lirathi had returned to their nests, glancing at Shira with a mix of respect and caution. It was clear that Eli's involvement had changed the social dynamics. Shira's attention to him had given him a place in her hierarchy, however temporary or symbolic it might be. By midday, Eli was exhausted, but focused. He documented everything: the predator's attack, Shira's defensive actions, and his own interventions. This was more than observation now. It was active participation in a living ecosystem. Every movement mattered. Every decision could affect life and death for the Lirathi and their young. Shira brought another small object to Eli later that day, a smooth, glowing stone she had collected from the cliffs. She placed it near his equipment and hovered silently, wings spread in a posture Eli recognized as approval in Lirathi culture. He realized she was communicating a sense of gratitude and trust. Eli paused to record his thoughts. Observation Day 4. Crisis event confirms sapphire female recognizes human as ally. Protective instincts extended to human presence. Mutual reliance established. Further interactions must respect this bond while maintaining scientific objectivity. He exhaled, realizing that objectivity might be impossible at this point. As afternoon turned to evening, Eli noticed subtle changes in Shira's behavior. She no longer hovered at a distance. She remained nearby, following his movements more closely. Her eyes tracked his every action, and she occasionally emitted the soft, melodic hum that had first caught his attention. Eli had begun to respond unconsciously, adjusting his behavior to remain in harmony with hers. It was not just observation anymore. It was collaboration. He had to anticipate her reactions, just as she seemed to anticipate his. Every step required careful thought. He realized the depth of her intelligence, her ability to understand his presence, adapt her instincts, and even mirror his decisions was extraordinary. By nightfall, the nesting grounds glowed softly with bioluminescent light. The other Lirathi had settled, but Shira remained vigilant. She hovered near Eli's shelter, wings folded partially, head tilted in a posture that suggested awareness and readiness. Eli lay on his cot, exhausted but unable to sleep. He thought of the predator's attack, Shira's bravery, and the strange bond forming between them. He could not deny it. Shira had claimed him as part of her life, in her way. Her protective instincts had extended beyond the nestlings to include him. He was no longer just an observer. He was part of the ritual, whether he wanted it or not. Eli stared at the glowing clouds above the cliffs, reflecting on the lessons of the day. Human ingenuity had allowed him to protect the Lirathi, but it was Shira's instincts, intelligence, and courage that had made the protection truly effective. Without her, the nestlings might have perished. Without his presence, she might have faced the predator alone. Together, they had succeeded. He realized then that his role was more complex than he had anticipated. He was a bridge between species, a participant in a living world whose rules were unlike any human norms, and he understood with a mix of awe and caution that the days ahead would demand more than observation. They would demand trust, understanding, and courage. Outside, the wind hummed softly. The nests glowed faintly, reflecting the sapphire shimmer of Shira's wings. Eli watched her hover silently, understanding that the bond formed in crisis was stronger than any observation protocol. The predator's attack had changed everything. It had tested instincts, intelligence, and trust. It had created a connection that could not be undone. Eli closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of responsibility. He had to honor Shira's trust, protect the nestlings, and maintain a balance between human logic and alien instinct. It was a delicate line, and one misstep could destroy everything. But he also felt a spark of hope. In a world so alien, where instincts and rituals ruled, he had found a way to participate, to be acknowledged, and even to be trusted. Shira's actions had shown him that connection could cross species boundaries when respect, courage, and intelligence aligned. As night fell fully, Eli lay awake, listening to the soft hum of the nesting grounds. Shira remained close, her presence a constant reminder that observation had turned into partnership. He could not predict the future, could not know how her species would continue to interpret his presence, but he knew one thing: together they had survived. Together they had faced danger and emerged stronger. The line between observer and participant had blurred completely, and Eli understood more clearly than ever that the coming days would test not just his skills as a xenobiologist, but his understanding of trust, instinct, and the deep, unspoken connections that could exist between species. Above him, Shira's wings shimmered in the bioluminescent light. She waited, alert, protective, and aware, and Eli knew that he would do everything in his power to honor the bond formed in the chaos of the nest. The third morning on Lyra 9 began with a strange silence. Eli Mercer woke inside his small field shelter, the air cool and damp. Usually, the nesting grounds echoed with the hums of the Lirathi and the soft chirps of hatchlings. Today, the quiet felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. Eli stepped outside, checking his equipment. The bioluminescent glow of the nests painted the rocky cliffs in pale light. Shira, the sapphire-colored Lirathi female who had attached herself to him, hovered close, wings twitching nervously. She seemed uneasy. Eli frowned. "Something's wrong," he whispered to himself. He could feel it too. The hatchlings huddled close to the mounds, and the other females moved restlessly, wings partially spread. Eli's training told him this was a defensive posture. Something had entered the territory. He activated a drone, sending it into the air. The feed on his wrist console showed movement near the cliffs. A predator. Large, four-legged, with glowing yellow eyes. Its body was covered in thick scales, and its tail lashed like a whip. Eli's heartbeat quickened. He had read about such predators in the mission files, cliff stalkers. They hunted in silence, ambushing nests when the mothers were distracted. Shira gave a sharp, vibrating hum, her wings flaring wide. The other females responded with calls of alarm. The hatchlings began to chirp in panic. Eli knew he had to act. His orders were clear: observe, document, do not interfere. But standing still while young lives were threatened went against everything in him. He grabbed his stun baton from the shelter wall. It wasn't much, just a defensive tool, but it was all he had. "All right," he muttered. "If you're coming for the nests, you'll have to get through me first." The cliffstalker moved closer, silent and patient. Its muscles rippled under the scaled skin, eyes. The sky over Lyra 9 glowed with violet streaks as the morning sun rose. Captain Eli Mercer stepped carefully among the nest mounds, taking in the familiar sights and sounds of the nesting grounds. The hatchlings moved freely now, chirping softly and exploring the soft, glowing terrain. Eli had come to know their patterns, their routines, and the subtle energy of the Larathi society. Shira hovered near him, wings spread partially, eyes tracking every movement. She had become a constant presence, a guardian of the nests and, in some strange way, a companion to Eli. Over the past days, their connection had grown deeper. What had begun as observation had transformed into partnership, understanding, and trust. Today felt different. Eli sensed it the moment he stepped into the open. Shira circled him slowly, her wings creating soft patterns in the bioluminescent light. She brought a small, luminescent stone from a nearby mound and placed it near his equipment. Then she hovered closer than usual, wings quivering slightly. Eli understood immediately. This was a formal gesture of acknowledgement, perhaps even a culmination of the rituals she had been performing since his arrival. He knelt down, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. "I understand," he said softly. "You accept me here in your world as part of your life, and I accept that." Shira tilted her head, wings shivering in a slow rhythm, and emitted a melodic hum that resonated through the air. Eli smiled, feeling a profound connection he had never expected to experience with any alien species. The other Larathi observed silently, wings folded and eyes alert. They had accepted Shira's choice and, by extension, Eli's presence. He was no longer just a human observer. He had been integrated into their social structure, recognized as a trusted participant. The nestlings scurried around him without fear, and the atmosphere was calm, balanced, and alive with trust. Eli spent the morning helping organize the nest mounds for optimal protection, using his human knowledge of structures and patterns. He adjusted the small bioluminescent sensors he had set up, ensuring that every nest was safe from potential predators. Shira hovered close, occasionally nudging him gently with her wingtip, as if guiding his actions and approving his efforts. During the midday lull, Eli reviewed his notes and recordings. He realized that every gesture Shira had made, from bringing offerings to mirroring his movements, was a form of communication. It was her way of testing him, acknowledging him, and establishing trust. And he had responded with patience, intelligence, and care. Their partnership had grown organically, without words, without force, and without expectation. As the day progressed, a new challenge emerged. A minor quake shook the rocky cliffs, sending small stones tumbling toward the nests. The hatchlings panicked, chirping loudly. Shira reacted instantly, positioning herself between Eli and the falling debris, wings spread in protective arcs. Eli moved quickly, using a small tool to stabilize loose stones and prevent damage to the nests. Together they worked seamlessly. His human ingenuity complemented her natural speed and strength. They moved as one, protecting the young and maintaining balance within the nesting grounds. When the danger passed, Shira hovered close, wings quivering in a rhythmic pattern that Eli recognized as approval. She had trusted him once more, and he had proven himself again. By late afternoon, Eli knew it was time to formalize their connection in a way both species could understand. He gathered several of the small objects Shira had brought him, stones, luminescent plants, and other offerings, and arranged them in a pattern near the largest nest. He mimicked her gestures carefully, acknowledging her rituals with deliberate precision. Shira watched intently, wings spread, eyes shining with intelligence. When Eli finished, she circled him slowly, then touched one of the objects with her wingtip. She emitted a melodic tone that resonated in the air, a clear signal of recognition, respect, and acceptance. Eli understood fully. This was the culmination of the rituals she had performed since his arrival. He knelt, keeping his posture low and non-threatening, and spoke softly. "I accept your world, your rules, and your trust. I will protect it. I will honor it. And I will remain here with you. Shira's wings shivered in response, and she emitted a series of melodic hums that sounded almost like laughter. She had accepted him, not merely as a human, but as a partner, a guardian, and a participant in her life. The other Lirathi observed silently. For the first time, Eli noticed subtle shifts in their behavior. Nods of acknowledgement, lowered wings, and soft, approving hums. They had recognized his role within Shira's circle. He was no longer an outsider. He had become part of the community, integrated through courage, intelligence, and respect for their culture. As the sun began to set, casting violet and green streaks across the sky, Eli and Shira moved among the nests together. He adjusted a sensor here, stabilized a mound there while she hovered, guiding him and ensuring the young were safe. They communicated silently through gestures, hums, and shared understanding. It was a partnership that transcended species, a blend of human ingenuity and alien instinct. Night fell fully, and the bioluminescent glow of the nests lit the surroundings. Shira settled near Eli, wings partially folded, eyes fixed on him with intelligence and awareness. Eli sat quietly beside her, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. He had arrived as an observer, tasked with documenting alien behavior. But he had become so much more. He thought of the predator, the quake, the rituals, and the trust they had built. Each challenge had strengthened their bond. Each action had proven their understanding and respect for one another. He realized that he had become a part of her world and she had become a part of his. Their connection was not based on instinct alone, but on mutual recognition, courage, and trust. Eli spoke softly, almost to himself. We've built something extraordinary here, a bond between species forged through understanding, respect, and action. I will honor it, always. Shira responded with a soft melodic hum, and Eli felt a warmth and reassurance in that sound. The night was calm, the nests glowing softly, and the hatchlings resting safely. Eli and Shira remained side by side, a human and an alien connected by trust and shared experience. He knew the human researchers would never fully understand what had occurred here. The depth of connection, the mutual recognition, and the bond that had formed. But that did not matter. What mattered was the partnership they had built, the trust they had earned, and the new life thriving in the nesting grounds. As the stars appeared in the violet sky, Eli realized something profound. Humans had a unique capacity to bridge gaps, to adapt and to form trust across species. Shira had accepted him not because he was strong or dominant, but because he had observed, respected, and acted with intelligence and courage. That was the essence of humanity, the reason they could thrive even in worlds far from their own. He reached out a hand, and Shira touched it lightly with her wingtip. A silent acknowledgement passed between them, a promise of protection, understanding, and companionship. Eli smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility and the joy of connection. He was no longer just an observer. He was part of a story larger than himself, a story of trust, courage, and human potential. The night deepened, the nests glowing faintly, and Eli and Shira remained together, guardians of life, symbols of understanding, and proof that connection could exist even across the boundaries of species. In that quiet moment, he knew that Lyra 9 would never forget the partnership they had formed. And neither would he. For the first time, Eli felt completely at home on an alien world, not as a visitor but as a participant, trusted and respected by a species that had never known a human so intimately, and he knew without doubt that this bond would endure, a testament to the courage, intelligence, and empathy that defined humanity. Above them, Shira's wings shimmered in the soft light, her eyes reflecting trust and recognition. Eli rested beside her, breathing deeply, feeling the harmony of two worlds coming together. This was more than observation. This was understanding. This was partnership, and it was only the beginning. The following morning, the nesting grounds were calm. Eli Mercer stepped carefully among the mounds, noting how Shira moved beside him, not aggressively, but as if guiding him through her world. The predator had not returned, but the tension of the previous day lingered in the air. Eli understood that Shira had accepted him as part of the protective circle, and the other Lirathi seemed to acknowledge his presence with cautious respect. Eli reviewed his recordings and notes from the past few days. The sapphire female's behavior was extraordinary, She had displayed intelligence, intuition, and adaptability, unlike any Lirathi studied before. She seemed to understand human presence in ways that went beyond instinct. Yet he also realized that her persistent attention might be misinterpreted by others in her species. Shira hovered near him, wings folded slightly, watching his every move. Heli could feel her awareness, almost like a tangible presence pressing softly against him. He moved slowly, adjusting the sensors and equipment he had placed. She mirrored him again, lifting a wing when he bent down, tilting her head as he paused. It was no longer just observation. This was interaction, subtle and deliberate. Eli recorded his thoughts in his tablet. Day 5. Sapphire female's attachment is consistent and deliberate. Protective and curious behavior toe.